As we step into the new year, it's the perfect time to reflect on our well being and consider how we can prioritize ourselves in the months ahead. Joining me now is Dr. Dasha Leneva, ND, as part of what she said's continuing partnership with New Roots Herbal. In this conversation, we'll explore what it truly means to prioritize self care, how to recognize the need for a personal reset, and practical strategies for integrating self care into our daily routines. We'll also delve into the role of nutrition and supplements in supporting our self care journey. Welcome to What She Said, Dasha.
Thank you for having me. It's so great to be here.
So, what does it mean to put yourself first or to prioritize your own well being?
Well, first of all, it's recognizing that prioritizing yourself isn't something that we should view as selfish. We often think of it as a bad word, but it's really not. The bad word here is selfless. If we say we are selfless, we're basically saying that we don't consider ourselves at all. And reframing it in this way kind of makes you feel a little bit different about the word, doesn't it?
Right.
Um, yeah, if we don't at the very least keep our basic health needs like sleep, exercise, and diet dialed in, we are inherently setting ourselves up for a bad time. And on top of that, if we put everyone else above ourselves, and let's be real, us women do this a lot, we drain our own mental, emotional, physical cups and leave ourselves with essentially nothing. So that was a roundabout way of saying that putting yourself first means number one, making sure that you have your basic needs met, and two, listening to whatever else your body needs. Ignoring our needs is only going to make them fight stronger to be heard.
Well, let's talk about those needs because, especially now that we're in January, we're past the sort of the hustle and bustle and massive stress that December brings. So, what are the signs or cues we should be looking for that signal that need for a reset?
Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of a hard question because, everyone is different, but some of the signs that you could look out for are anxiety, low mood, stress, and especially feelings of overwhelm, difficulty concentrating, fatigue. So these are all clues that you might need a little bit extra support. And, look, I understand that it's easy to ignore these things and say, oh, well, maybe I'm just tired. Maybe this is my normal. And yes, if you got a bad night's sleep the night before, it is normal to be tired, but being tired all the time, being overwhelmed and anxious all the time really isn't normal. And that goes for all the other signs that I mentioned earlier too.
What are some effective self care practices then for enhancing our mental, emotional, and physical well being?
Mhm. So as I mentioned earlier, getting the pillars of health dialed in is key. So making sure you're getting adequate sleep, you're eating good and nourishing food, and enough of it. That's a lot of thing. That's something I see a lot is people don't actually eat enough food, even though their diet is good. And making sure that you're exercising regularly. So, in addition to improving how we eat, obtaining regular sleep, and being more active, adding fun into your daily life is actually a really good method. So, while this may seem rather obvious, I believe that many people need to actively pursue fun as a way to improve their overall lifestyle and well being. Other things you can incorporate as well would be things like meditation, and this can be active meditation, like yoga or doing breath work. Journaling is wonderful too. Learning something new every day or doing something that brings you joy.
I really, really love that you mentioned bringing fun into your life because I think we do. We chase sleep and we chase
Mhm.
meditation, and we're so diligent and hardcore on chasing our goals this in the new year, and we forget to have
Mhm.
fun, to just relax and enjoy it. So that's such a great point. And how about integrating nutrition and supplements into our life? Any suggestions there, especially for people who maybe haven't been doing so, maybe as much as they should have?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So what supplements really do is fill any nutritional gaps um, that we may have and support ourselves in certain aspects that we need it most. For example, if we're stressed, we have adaptogens like rhodiola and ashwagandha in our toolkit. If we're anxious, something like lavender is a great option too, super helpful for sleep as well, and lots of research on those supplements. And then there are the supplements that, in my opinion, everyone should talk to their doctor about being on. These are things like omega 3s, which basically help support everything from mood, cardiovascular function, brain health. There's vitamin D, which is super important for immune function, mood, and bone health. And living in Canada, uh, most of the population is chronically vitamin D deficient. So it's really important to get your levels checked. And as I mentioned earlier, filling those nutritional gaps is important. And that's why a high quality multivitamin might be beneficial with lots of B vitamins for energy and metabolic support. But before we do any of that, we need to get diet in order. So we need to ensure that we're eating enough protein, healthy fats, and carbohydrates. And I promise you, carbohydrates are not evil. And having the proper nutrition that actually supports our body's function helps energy, mood, and overall health. And, these changes aren't that hard. They basically just require you to eat real food and enough food.
And what strategies or methods do you suggest for maintaining a routine, which I think is what people struggle with the most?
Yeah, that's always really tough. But what I say to my patients is first, you got to meet yourself where you're at. You don't expect changes to appear overnight. And the things that actually stick aren't the things that happen super quickly. You can't make changes like that. You know, first of all, you need to figure out what your priorities are and then start making small, attainable strides towards them. If you're struggling to kind of figure out what that means and how to do it, I'd recommend reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. He really lays down that framework beautifully. But if you don't want to read his book, the gist of it is figure out what you want, make things easy for yourself, and make those changes habits that you do every day. Another thing that's really powerful is to set clear times for set care so you don't all of a sudden feel overwhelmed to fit in exercise or time to meal prep. And if you make time in advance, you'll never have no time to do something. And the last thing is don't forget to be kind to yourself. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to do things that make us feel good. And it's not the end of the world if you slip up on one of the habits that you're trying to make. The difference is getting back into it the day after and learning how to fail without labeling yourself as a failure.
Oh, I love it. Perfect. That's great. Thank you, Dasha, so much for joining me today. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
If you're in British Columbia, you can come see me at the clinic at Yaletown Integrative Clinic. I do appointments virtually or in person, and I'm on Instagram at Dr. Dasha Leneva.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.